Hi, I'm Mike Reynolds, a senior reporter covering the media industry with S&P Global Market Intelligence Tech, Media, and Telecom News Team. Welcome to MediaTalk, a podcast hosted by S&P Global, where the news and research staff explore issues in the ever-evolving media landscape. Today, MediaTalk is talking football in general and Super Bowl 60 in particular. I'm joined by a trio of S&P Global Market Intelligence Kagan analysts. Justin Nielsen, head of research, who covers many things, notably broadcast. Justin, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back, Mike.
All right. We've got principal analyst Scott Robson, who tracks developments with major U.S. programs and cable networks, as well as sports. He's in our virtual locker room. Our people in Austin, Texas, Scott, psyched for this game.
Yes, thanks for having me, Mike. I think now that we've thawed out a little bit here, it's time for the Super Bowl.
Okay. All right. Mike, MJ, he writes about U.S. sports market and its increasing transition to streaming, is also with us. Mike, there's a lot of snow in upstate New York.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. Yeah, we're buried in snow up here in Western New York. It's classic winter weather. I think we had -10 wind chills this morning. I'm looking forward to spring for sure.
Okay. So Sunday, February 8th, we have the Seattle Seahawks and New England Patriots live from Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California. NBC Sports has the coverage, meaning NBC, Telemundo, and aggregate streamer Peacock. It's actually a rematch of Super Bowl 49 back in 2014, a game that lives on famously or infamously, depending on where you sit, because Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson did not ignore his coach Pete Carroll's directive, and instead of handing the ball to beast mode Marshall and Lynch at the 1-yard line, instead he threw a slant pattern that was intercepted by Malcolm Butler in the end zone, and the Patriots secured victory. Sorry to have to recap that. Anyway, before we get to the Super Bowl, let's talk about the college football playoff. Nobody had Indiana. Losing this program in college football history, turnaround under Coach Signetti in 24-25 made the CFP and then capped this season with first football championship in unbeaten fashion. What did you guys make of the Hoosiers and quarterback Fernando Mendoza, who's the presumptive #1 pick in the NFL draft, going to the Vegas Raiders? Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, what a story, right? Like the Hoosiers kind of rewrote the college football script a bit here this last year, going undefeated. Like you mentioned, getting their first national championship, Big Ten conference with a 3-peat.
Right.
That's definitely legendary stuff. Mendoza, like you mentioned, the #1 pick, Heisman winner. He's got those interviews that gets the fans and teammates fired up. It's just crazy to think about how far they've come, and I wouldn't be surprised to see other college programs follow their blueprint a bit as far as roster construction in this new era.
Justin, were you saying who that night?
No, not really, but it was interesting in terms of the two quarterbacks with Mendoza and Carson Beck. Carson Beck said after the game, was like, when's the last time you actually attended class? It was 2 years ago. Guy's 26. But it is interesting. And there is definitely things at play in the Super Bowl with the OC, Clint Kubiak, being courted by the Raiders. We'll see what happens in the game.
Scott, were you in the Hoosier Mania class?
Not exactly. I can respect their amazing run. I think Mendoza is a great player with a real promising future. Just hopefully he doesn't take too much of a beating in his first few years in the NFL. Looks like he'll be stepping into a pretty challenging situation if he goes to Vegas.
I got you. All right. We'll stick with the CFP for a little bit. It's sticking with 12 teams for next year instead of 14, 16, or 24 someday down the road like Big Ten wants in 2029. Justin, your take on this?
Yeah, I definitely feel like we're at a point now where we've got all of the top teams represented in each one of the conferences. I'm not really for expansion, to be honest.
Okay, Scott, how about you?
Yes, I think 16 could be a good number. Clearly, the media companies want more of these playoff games. They draw large audiences. I think they need to tighten up the schedule a bit. There was a 10-day gap between the semifinal and the championship game this year. And I think that kind of zaps the momentum. I'd like to see the schedule tightened up a little bit.
Mike, where do you fall in on this?
Yeah, I think the 12-team playoff has been an upgrade from the old system, in my opinion. The Big Ten, SEC had those big wild ideas for expansion. Honestly, I think they're taking their time a bit to figure this out and get it right. Like Scott mentioned, the schedule will need to be adjusted, in my opinion, especially if expansion takes place. It felt like the CFP was dragging out a little bit and kind of got buried by those high-profile NFL playoff games.
Sure, absolutely. And next year, it's going to be on January 25th. So it's getting real late on this football calendar. Anyway, let's go back to the pros. Very strong year of viewership for the NFL, averaged 18.7 million viewers per game. That's up 10% from last season, and that's the best mark since 1989. A lot of tight games, but Scott, can you talk about Nielsen have made a change in its methodology that probably helped the viewership along the way?
Yeah, the NFL put some pressure on Nielsen to capture a more complete audience picture. Nielsen's answer was the big data plus panel approach, which seems to have worked well for the NFL, showing an uptick in viewership this season. So Nielsen's approach, they combine set-top box data, smart TV device data with their traditional panel data. So they're tracking around 45 million households, 75 million devices, and then they're marrying that with their panel of around, I think, 42,000 households. Yeah. So the rise in viewership, it's hard to pin down as there isn't a clear apples to apples comparison to last season as the methodology has changed. But it looks like viewership was still up around 4% or so. Try and make that comparison.
All right. Mike, there's also a better out-of-home viewing as well, measurement from Nielsen.
Yeah. The numbers this season have just been wild. Almost 19 million viewers per game is just really huge. And you're right, the out-of-home viewing is definitely playing a big role, especially with Nielsen. They're 100% out-of-home coverage now. With the Super Bowl this Sunday, folks are going to be tuning in from all kinds of different spots, not just at home. So those viewership stats will definitely get a huge boost, I think, from everyone gathering at different places to watch the big game.
Yeah, totally makes sense, especially for Super Bowl Sunday. All right. Big year for streaming, Mike. Prime Video really kicked it up this season.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a massive year for streaming in the NFL, especially for Prime. If you look at the numbers, Prime's Thursday Night Football averaged, I think, just over 15 million viewers across its 15-game slate this season, which includes the local over-the-air broadcasts. And that's a 16% jump year over year. And it's actually the best showing since Thursday Night Football moved to streaming. Christmas night was obviously huge. The Broncos-Chiefs game pulled in over 21 million viewers, setting a new Prime record and smashing the previous high from earlier in the season. Since Prime became the exclusive home for Thursday Night Football in 2022, the audience has grown by 60%, which has been massive. Now we're seeing 8 games this season that hit at least 15 million viewers. People have really adjusted to the streaming over to Prime Video.
Okay. But linear, Justin, still the place to be.
It really is, and especially on NBC with their Sunday Night Football matchups, which have been really good this year. And with the new NBA rights deal, Sunday Night Basketball is coming, and then baseball. So they're very sports heavy in terms of the Sunday night programming. And then you look at the divisional and championship games. They did very well across both NBC, Telemundo, and Peacock.
I got you. And I guess CBS said it had its best year ever. And I think the idea, and maybe it got to all the AFC quarterbacks, whether they're named Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Mr. Burrow, it seems that they seem to have surpassed Fox in that late Sunday afternoon window, those 4:25 starts. I think it's like the third year in a row CBS has won that matchup. And I think that's the top franchise in all of TV these days.
It really is. And NFL and CBS has really performed very well, especially in the matchups that they've received and just the star quality. You look at the average audience for the AFC Championship game averaged about 48.6 million viewers on CBS. That was about 10% higher than the previous year on Fox. Yes, they've done very well.
Scott, what about ESPN and Monday Night Football? And they've got a lead of sorts for its first ever Super Bowl next season.
Yes, ESPN, they had their second best season for Monday Night Football. The 2023 season was actually slightly higher rated. I think this was an interesting season for the NFL with key injuries happening and some of the matchups that looked to be high profile in the beginning of the season. When those games came around, they didn't really mean as much. But yeah, so ESPN is gearing up for the Super Bowl next year. ABC hasn't had the game since 2006. And so they'll be starting the hype train there on Super Bowl Sunday this year with an event called The Handoff. So they're going to have shows broadcast from the site of Super Bowl in 2027, which is SoFi Stadium in Southern California.
Right. Okay.
So really going all in on that.
Okay. One bit of a complication, though, fellas, is the Super Bowl date next year. It's something called February 14th. Justin, is that going to prove nettlesome to navigate at your home?
Oh, absolutely. With the wife and 2 daughters, for sure. That is very unfortunate being on Valentine's Day with the Super Bowl, with my daughters not caring less about the football game, maybe the halftime show, but maybe they should go all Barbie, Harry, Mirror, and just meld them together. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, how about you? Are you going to have to invoke, honey, I have to watch a Super Bowl for work?
Yeah. It looks like we'll be having to celebrate with a nicer dinner on the 13th next year. I feel bad. This year it's on a Saturday. We'll be spending the day at an all-day youth basketball tournament that I'm helping coach. And then next year with the Super Bowl,
Okay.
I'm just hoping there's a good halftime show, like Justin mentioned.
All right, Scott, what do you think about February 14th in the Super Bowl? And I guess another thing, we're going to maybe have some changes with contracts next year with the league.
Yeah, so the Super Bowl falling on Valentine's Day, I think it's definitely going to test the game's appeal, potentially dampen viewership. But in terms of the current NFL media rights deal that runs through 2033, it's up for renegotiation. I think given the rising value of live sports rights, it's inevitable that this is going to get renegotiated. I think the NFL is looking at some recent deals that have been forged, especially the NBA deal, which tipped off this year. And they're going to use those to justify getting more money from the media companies. I think the NFL has some strong negotiating leverage here because of the popularity, the rising ratings that we just described. And I think it really bolsters their case.
Okay. All right. Justin, there's been talk about 18 games for a long time from Commissioner Goodell. Robert Kraft, I guess maybe going to the Hall of Fame in the next week or so. He heads a TV committee. He's really pushing for 18-game slate. I'm assuming this is going to happen, Justin, but soon or a few years down the road?
Yeah, they're going to have to get some concessions from the NFLPA, either shorten the preseason games or mandatory training sessions. However, there was a pushback from 16 to 17 games that expanded back in 2021. So, I mean, and now it's normal regular season, 17 games. So I think you pace out the bye weeks and everything, and it definitely makes sense.
Sure. Mike, there's lots of talk about the 18th game may become an international kind of schedule. Kraft is pushing for something where every team would play a game away. But I think we have 7 or 8 games this year. Is that bridge too far at this juncture?
Yeah, so I think this year there were 7 international games, and that's up from 5 the season prior. So the league is definitely ramping things up as far as the international games go. I think for next year, they've already announced that there's going to be 8 international games spread across 5 cities in 4 different countries so far. I think they announced Munich, Melbourne, Rio de Janeiro, and London, of course. And like you mentioned before, Robert Kraft recently made news about the league potentially replacing one preseason game with a regular season one, which could mean eventually down the line that every team will play at least one international game each year. Yeah, we can expect the international slate to only get bigger going forward, I think.
All right, guys, let's get back to the business of Super Bowl 60. Mike, you have a Super Bowl preview up on Cap IQ Pro. Mike, take us through the game and Madison Avenue, if you will.
Thanks, Mike. Super Bowl 60, it's shaping up to be a massive event. You got the Seahawks trying to grab their second Lombardi trophy, and then the Patriots looking to add to their legendary legacy a bit. It's airing nationally on NBC, like we've been discussing, as part of their legendary February run. And it's pretty much guaranteed to be the most watched TV event of the year. Ad prices are through the roof. I believe one 30-second spot went for, I think it was 10 million, according to reports, with the average shaping up around 8 million this year, which is almost double what it cost when these two teams last met in 2015. You can watch the game in Spanish on Telemundo, Universo, stream it in 4K on Peacock. Back to the ad costs. They've jumped more than 45% in the last 5 years, which has been huge. But you're still seeing these brands still see the Super Bowl as a must for prestige awareness, especially since live sports are king for advertisers. You're seeing ticket prices. It's in that $6,000 to $8,000 range, I think, close to what it was last year. And then there's also reports that betting records are going to be set too, with just less than $2 billion expected to be wagered legally this year across the country.
I got you. Scott, Mike just talked about the rise in Super Bowl prices over the last few years. The audience is 120, 125 million. Is there a way that, I guess, prices go down, CPM prices go down? Is a Super Bowl ad a bargain?
Yes and no, I would say. In terms of just a straight CPM calculation, some of these spots are going for around $60 CPM. which is slightly higher than the primetime broadcast network CPMs of around $45 to $50. But I think the Super Bowl ads are a bargain since people actually pay attention. Ratings aside, I think people are tuning out ads to a great degree these days and are distracted by their phones. But on Super Bowl Sunday, I think attention to ads is at a premium, which isn't really quantifiable, but I think it makes the spots more valuable.
You gotcha. Justin, they also, the word legendary has come up, at least in 30 Rock and other NBCU outlets and occasionally here. So NBC Sports not only has Super Bowl 60, it has the Olympics and it has the NBA All-Star Game from the Intuit Dome the following weekend. All of that together made ad sales better?
Yes, absolutely. And they're going to have the share of eyeballs throughout the month of February. In addition, they've got some new NBC shows in the primetime hours after the Winter Olympics closing ceremonies on Sunday, February 22nd. The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins starring Tracy Morgan. He's returned to NBC from 30 Rock, and The Voice Battle of Champions. So they're going to have a very good slate of content throughout the month of February in a big push with sports and entertainment programming.
Scott, you mentioned it before. Many people do like to check out the ads from the Super Bowl Sunday and beyond. Anything that you've read about, anything you may have already seen that has caught your eye in that sense?
Yeah, so in terms of some high profile ads that we should expect for this Super Bowl, I know my daughter will be excited about Sabrina Carpenter's Pringles ad. I think a lot of people were turned off by Uber Eats commercials with Matthew McConaughey yelling food at Bradley Cooper. They're stemming the playoff game. So hopefully they edit that approach a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. Mike, how about you? Something that you're looking forward to seeing or you've already seen?
Yeah. So I'm sure we're going to see a ton of Olympics content with various athletes. And we've already seen a few teasers that I'm going to be looking out for, like with Bud Light, with Post Malone and Shane Gillis. And I think Peyton Manning is going to be involved in that too. You have also State Farm's Halfway There Insurance with Danny McBride and Keegan-Michael Key. And then Instacart's gaining a lot of buzz too with their ad. It's going to have Ben Stiller and Benson Boone in it, where I think Stiller tries a backflip and it just goes crazy. Those are just a few that I'll be looking out for, but tuning in and out, like Scott mentioned.
Okay. Justin, I don't think we've mentioned AI yet today, which is an upset in and of itself, but there's going to be some AI ads as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be AI in ads, and hopefully not too much AI, because it's still to the point now where you can see where AI is being integrated in certain advertisements. But I'm more worried about the robots taking over, I guess you would say. But no, in terms of an ad category, you definitely will have AI at the forefront with Google, Oakley, Meta, Salesforce, as Mike had mentioned, Instacart, Uber Eats, OpenAI, already confirmed as advertisers. So there will be a lot of push around AI.
I got you. All right. Postseason's been mostly strong viewership. I hate to say that we're all such snobs that 48 million for the Denver Patriots game and Seattle and the Rams getting 46 million. It could have been stronger. Some people are suggesting that maybe the matchup of the Pats and the rematch against Seattle, maybe not the best. Justin, you think it's a good game?
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I think the rematch aspect of it is interesting. The political story around the Bad Bunny halftime show will also be interesting in terms of the casual fan. The redemption story of Sam Darnold in Seattle. Sorry, Mike, you moving from Minnesota. And newcomer Drake May in New England. They're attractive quarterbacks. Let's put it that way. Let's hope it's a close game and not a blow up by halftime.
Let's look, guys, at last year. 127.7 million viewers, record Super Bowl audience. Fox Deportes, as well as Telemundo. Tubi was in the mix, other NFL and Fox digital assets. This year, as we talked about, it's NBC, it's Peacock, it's Telemundo, it's NFL and NBC digital assets. Are we getting there? Are we getting to 127.7 million again, Scott? What's the audience going to look like?
I think this one will actually dip compared to last year, but not by much given the big data plus panel bump. The storylines just aren't as interesting as they have been in the past. I think there's a lot of casual viewers that don't know who Sam Darnold or Drake May really are. And I think that's going to drag on viewership a little bit.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the over on this one, over 127 million.
Okay.
I just think with the Olympics wrapped around this whole event too, it'll attract additional eyeballs. Yeah, I'm going to go with the over.
All right. We're getting to the end here, guys. The best part of our Super Bowl podcast. If you were a Nielsen household, where would they count you as watching? NBC, Peacock, or in an out-of-home venue? Scott, last year I think you watched the game at your brother's place. Is that the same game plan?
Yeah, same game plan. He likes to cook a nice spread. Yeah, we'll be tuning in and likely on NBC.
Okay. Justin, I think last year you got your daughters to watch because Taylor Swift was around watching the Chiefs play. Are they going to be watching the game with you this time?
Not the game, but probably interested in the Bad Bunny halftime show. They are fans. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And Mike, how about you? You got a young family. They like football. You're watching at your house, a larger family, or at a friend's?
Yeah, we'll be hunkering down at home with these frigid temperatures and school early the next morning. I'm sure the kids will be teasing to stay up a little late, but I don't know. We might have some family over too last minute.
Okay. All right. Justin, you mentioned Bad Bunny a couple of times. Green Day. It's an opening act. You guys watching this? There's been a lot of controversy. Turning Point USA may or may not be doing something. Justin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, we're either watching the halftime show or the Puppy Bowl. Let's put it that way.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, we'll be tuning into the Bad Bunny show. My wife's a big fan. I'm sure we'll be dancing around with the kids, stuff like that.
And Scott?
Yeah, I'll probably have the Bad Bunny show on, but hopefully we'll be talking all about the first half action and how great it was.
Me, I'm probably going Bad Bunny. Best ever halftime show was the In Living Color thing back in '92. That was tremendous. 2 years later, Fox had the NFL, so they couldn't do that anymore. And In Living Color drew like 29 million people. And I guess it got the NFL to get its act together. In 1993, the halftime performer was a gentleman known as Michael Jackson. Anyway, let's get to this here. All of you guys picked the Ravens to win. I picked the Eagles. We didn't do so well, but MediaTalk, it's onward and upward. Scott, who's going to win the game and why?
Yeah, so I think that there's some special mojo going on in Boston. There has been for a decade or so with wins across many of their professional franchises. So I don't think you can bet against the Patriots here in the Super Bowl.
Okay. You guys all know I'm a Giants fan, so I can't go there. In fact, if there's 30 teams in the NFL, Patriots are number 30 and Seahawks are number 26. Not exactly compelling matchup, but I'm going. I've watched every game and going to watch this one. Hopeful that Seattle wins and covers the 4.5-point spreads and at least stalls the reemergence of a new Patriots dynasty for at least one more season. Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going NFC West with Seattle. I think they just have a better defense and offense. So overall, I'm going with them.
And Mike, last word to you.
Yeah, mostly I'm hoping a lot of my prop bets hit. And I guess I'll be rooting for the Seahawks. Hopefully we get a crazy ending like the Malcolm Butler play previous matchup, but hopefully this time in Seattle's favor. We'll see.
That concludes this episode of MediaTalk. I just want to thank our Kagan analysts, Mike, Scott, and Justin for sharing their thoughts on the CFP, the NFL playoffs, and Super Bowl 60. We appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
This is Mike Reynolds. Thanks to all of you for listening. Enjoy the Super Bowl wherever you're going to watch. Go Seahawks. We'll catch up soon on the next episode of MediaTalk.